want to share, today is a very, very important day in the life of the church. This is our birthday, Pentecost. It's the day of the birth of the church. I want to read a passage from Genesis to put some of this in perspective. Genesis 11 tells us, now the whole earth had one language and the same words. Actually, in Hebrew it says a few words. As they migrated from the east, they came upon a plain in the land of Shinar and settled, and they said to one another, come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone and bitumen for mortar, and then they said, come, let us build ourselves a city, and a tower with its top to the heavens. Let us make a name for ourselves. Otherwise, we shall be scattered abroad from the face of the whole earth. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which mortals had built. And the Lord said, look, they are one people, and they all have one language. This is only the beginning of what they'll do. Nothing that they've proposed will now be impossible. Let us go down, let us confuse their language, so that they will not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad from there over the face of the earth, and they left off building the city. Therefore it was called Babel, because there the Lord confused the language of all the earth. And from there the Lord scattered them abroad over the face of the earth. The day of Pentecost reverted this story of Babel to a time when one language was able to, when all persons were able to understand one language.
When the day of Pentecost came, they were all together in one place. Suddenly, a sound like the blowing of a violent wind came from heaven and filled the whole house where they were sitting. They saw what seemed to be tongues of fire, that separated and came to rest on each other. All of them were filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in other tongues as the Spirit enabled them. When the day of Pentecost came, they were all together in one place. Suddenly, a sound like the blowing of a violent wind came from heaven and filled the whole house where they were sitting. They saw what seemed to be tongues of fire that separated and came to rest on each of them. All of them were filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in other tongues as the Spirit enabled them. Now there were, staying in Jerusalem, God-fearing Jews from every nation under heaven. When they heard this sound, a crowd came together in bewilderment, because each one heard them speaking in his own language. Utterly amazed, they asked, are not all these men who are speaking Galileans? Then how is it that each of us hears them in his own native language? Parthians, Medes, and Elamites, residents of Mesopotamia, Judea, Cappadocia, Pontus, and Asia, Phrygia and Pamphylia, Egypt, and part of the Libya near Cyrene, visitors from Rome, both Jews and converts to Judaism, Cretans and Arabians. We hear them declaring the wonders of God in our own tongues. Amazed and perplexed, they asked one another, what does this mean?
On the day of Pentecost, once more the world appeared on the God gave the church the ability to speak in ways that the community could understand. And I would pose that that language was the language of God. And it is still